Welcome back to Kris versus Everybody. I'm your host, Kris Canty. This is the podcast where I talk about anything unedited, uncensored, and unapologetic. No filters, no fluff. Just me talking real. If you think you know me, you don't. I'm going to say that right now. This episode is brought to you by Crisscross Studios and the Crisscross Studios YouTube channel. Hit the subscribe button, tap the notification bell so you never miss a new episode. And if you're listening on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, hit that follow button to stay up to date with every new episode as it drops. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for your support. Now let's get into it. The State of the Union address, which is always a political spectacle, regardless of who's the president. However, last night, Donald Trump delivered what has now been recorded as the longest State of the Union in U.S. history. This man does it all. He's setting records for all the wrong reasons. Nearly 108 minutes of rhetoric, applause, and political theater. He had points of economic strength, quote unquote, border security, quote unquote, foreign policy wins, quote unquote. He also criticized his political opponents and laid out his priorities moving forward, assuming that the midterm elections are good. The address was packed with bold statements, many of them disputed or is misleading on key issues like inflation, employment, immigration, drug pricing, etc., etc. All the man did was lie for 108 minutes. Republicans and MAGA loved what they heard. They love hearing lies to make them feel good. Donald Trump has to go. And if you listen to my podcast, you already know why I think he has to go. But I'm not going to talk about that today. I'm going to talk about last night's State of the Union address, or in this case, Trump's state of delusion. Now let's talk about delusion. And when I say delusion, I'm talking about the political universe orbiting around Donald Trump. Because at some point, we've got to stop pretending this is normal politics. This isn't conservative versus liberal. This isn't tax policy versus social spending. This isn't even personality politics. This is about reality versus fantasy. We are watching a political movement that treats facts as optional accessories. Elections they lose, it's rigged. Criminal investigations, now they're called witch hunts. Court rulings are now with corrupt judges. Former allies who disagree are now traitors. Media that reports critically are now enemies of the people. At some point, if everyone around you is corrupt, disloyal, dishonest, fake, or evil, maybe the issue isn't everyone else. Maybe the issue is the narrative. Maybe the issue is you, Donald Trump. What makes this dangerous isn't Trump's ego, because politicians are supposed to have a lot of ego. What makes this dangerous is the construction of an alternative reality, one where losses are victories, criminal charges are badges of honor, loyalty matters more than law, and accountability is framed as persecution. I can't talk today because I just drank some water. Accountability is framed as persecution. That's not strength. That's insulation from the truth. There's patterns, like the pattern. Look at the pattern of Donald Trump. Every loss must be fraud. Every criticism must be conspiracy. Every indictment must be election interference. At some point, that stops being strategy and starts looking like psychological self-preservation, because accepting reality would require admitting imperfection, something that Donald Trump did not do last night at the State of the Union address. He did not accept defeat, because everything he said was pretty much a bold-faced lie. Everything he said was a lie last night. So I'm just going to go over some of the things he said last night. And these are quotes. These are actual things that he said last night. So you think I'm making stuff up? They record the State of the Union address. I watched it over. I watched it live and I watched it over again this morning. And I did my research. Something that a lot of people don't do these days. People say something and they're like, oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah. Nope, not me. Donald Trump said, moving forward, jobs will continue pouring into the United States of America. However, under Donald Trump, since 2024 or 2025, since he took office last year, under Trump, the United States saw the lowest number of new jobs created since 2003, excluding the recession years. So 07 to about 2010, 2011, and probably the COVID years as well. So Trump lied. That's not the only lie he did. He also said that because of the big, beautiful bill, costs are way down on healthcare and everything else. No, 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 no. That's not true. Because we warned everybody that if he signed it, costs will go up for the most vulnerable of our population. Because of Trump's beautiful bill, quote unquote, big, beautiful bill, healthcare costs for 20 million Americans are going to continue to skyrocket. And he's going to pay the price, hopefully, in the midterm elections. Next lie. He said nobody can believe when they see energy going down to numbers like that. But under Trump, electricity rates have surged by at least 15%. Inflation is plummeting, he says. Incomes are rising fast. The roaring economy is roaring. But the truth is that families have paid an estimated $2,120 more because of soaring inflation under Trump, because of one, tariffs, and the big, beautiful bill that gives money and tax cuts to the most wealthy of our citizens. He also said that first duty of an American government is to protect its citizens. However, ICE have, well, we know of at least 2 murders in cold blood by ICE. 2 citizens, legal citizens, not immigrants, not migrants, people who were born here. So, yeah, you can't lie after a news story shows that ICE agents killed somebody. It's just crazy. Like, if we care about our country, if we really care, if we truly care about the United States of America, then reality has to matter more than the rhetoric. Because without reality, there's no accountability. And without accountability, there's no democracy. Great speeches make great headlines, but the analysis is where accountability lives. Subscribe to investigative outlets. Share fact check articles. Push back against misinformation in your circles. Get off Twitter. There's a whole lot of conspiracy theories on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. If we let messaging replace meaningful information, then we lose not just debates, we lose trust in public institutions that have had our best interest for centuries. And once that trust erodes, it's much harder to get back. That's why I'm pissed at Donald Trump, because I know the truth. If every fact check reveals the lies that he's saying, why does calling it out mean I'm unpatriotic, MAGA? Why? Why? Calling out bullshit is essential to being an American. Because if you listen to lies, then hey, go ahead. The biggest example, and I'm going to say this forever until the day I die, Donald Trump said, fight like hell or you won't have a country anymore. I'm coming with you. Not only did he not come with them, I didn't see him fight like hell on January 6th. I'm just saying. Polarization didn't start last night, but addressing it begins with understanding others, not dismissing them. Don't dismiss people who disagree with you. Debate the speech. Listen more than shouting. Challenge ideas respectfully. Our civic problems aren't going away just because you scroll past them. And that's the truth about this whole situation. The State of the Union address, I believe, should be a yearly, annual summary of what the country has been doing. Yes, there have been some good things, but there have been some terrible things happening in this country. Not just in politics, but in family lives. And in November of 2026, based on the speech that he gave last night, the longest State of the Union speech in US history, full of nothing but bullshit, I do think that the Republican Party needs to regroup. Because the reality of the situation is not matching the speech. Reality is not matching the speech. And I want people to understand those words. The reality is not matching the speech. Those 7 words are those words. Those words are, you're supposed to take those into the voting booths in November. Same energy. Biden did the same thing. He said, yes, look at the economy, it's doing well. However, milk was $8. Gas in Michigan was reaching $5 a gallon. We got to have that same energy for Donald Trump. We have to, because if we don't, we're hypocrites. It's because of us he's back again. Donald Trump is a president of the United States again because of our amnesia. He does not care about us. He does not care. And in November, we need to care about ourselves. We can't care about what someone says they're going to do for us after we've already had 4 years of them saying, yes, we're going to help you, when they didn't help you. These next 3 years is going to be a litmus test. A huge litmus test to see if we're going to wake up from this delusion, from Trump's state of delusion, or are we going to progress as a country who keeps its leaders accountable? And that's another edition of the Kris versus Everybody podcast. Share this podcast with somebody. It might help them. Peace.